This is Fitness Blender's Cannonball Shoulders Workout. For this workout, we're going to be doing 4 different exercises, 2 exercises at a time, and we're going to be doing 4 different shoulder rotations for each exercise. You're also going to need some dumbbells for this routine, as well as a chair, bench, or a physio ball to sit on. Let's go ahead and get started with our first exercise, the rear deltoid raise, with your thumbs pointing back behind you. Go ahead and grab those dumbbells. You're going to bend over to about a 45-degree angle or more, preferably as close to parallel to the ground as you possibly can. Then you're going to pull those hands directly back behind you, right by those sides, up as high as possible, past that point of your chest if you can. Nice and slow, back down right underneath that shoulder, and then squeeze it right back up again. Now the rotation on that hand is really important on this one. You want to make sure that that thumb is pointing straight back behind you. If you weren't using those dumbbells, you just had your hand curled over and you're pointing your thumb out in line with your hand, you want those thumbs pointing straight back behind you. Now if you keep that proper rotation the entire time, you're going to really focus on that rear deltoid more than the rest of it. Now let's go ahead and stand back up. We're going to start into lateral raises next. Same rotation on that shoulder. You want those thumbs pointing back behind you. You're going to have a really limited range of motion on this exercise, but you want to try to get as much range out of it as you possibly can. Try not to shrug those shoulders up to your ears. You want to keep those shoulders pulled down on your back. Nice straight back. Arm perfectly straight, just pulling that arm up and out to the side as high as possibly can without letting that hand rotate back forward at all. Now keep in mind when you're doing this, it's going to be very difficult to keep that hand rotation there. Your body's going to be constantly trying to rotate that hand back out. So just push up as high as you possibly can without letting that hand rotate out. Limit that range of motion if you need to. All right, we're going to switch it back to those rear deltoids. So we're going to be switching to a different position now. Those thumbs are going to be facing in towards your thighs, in towards each other. Now again, keeping that back really nice and flat, tipping over as parallel to the ground as you can. Just draw those hands up back behind you as high as is comfortable. You should actually feel like you have a little bit more range of motion with your hands in this position. Just a nice, slow, fluid, controlled motion. Make sure you're not letting your arms swing. You want a nice controlled contraction, squeezing it back, then slowly let that dumbbell drop back down underneath that shoulder before you start that position again. Don't let yourself start swinging those weights, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere near the amount of strength gains for that entire range of motion. And that is your last repetition right there. Let's go ahead and switch it back to those lateral raises. Again, this time you're going to have those thumbs facing in towards each other, in towards those thighs. Bring those arms up and out to the side as high as you can. Again, keep those shoulders pulled down in your back. Make sure you're not shrugging those shoulders up to your ears. Keeping a nice straight arm, nice straight back. Focus on getting a nice slow contraction, pulling those arms up and out to the sides as high as it's comfortable. Then nice and slow back down to those thighs. Make sure you're not swinging them or letting those weights drop. The slower you go, the more strength you're going to build through that entire range of motion rather than just an explosion strength at the very beginning of that range of motion. There's 2 more repetitions. 1 left. And let it relax. All right, go move back to those rear deltoid raises. This is our 3rd progression on this one. Those thumbs will be facing forward this time. Now with this one, you should feel like you have about the same amount of range of motion as the last progression, or maybe a little bit more. So just keep focusing on pushing that range of motion, getting as high as you possibly can, stopping right underneath that shoulder joint, and making sure you're controlling that motion, making sure it's nice and slow, no swinging of those arms, slow contraction up, slow drop back down. And just 2 more repetitions, nice slow controlled motion. Here's your last one right here. And let it relax. We're going to switch back to lateral raises, thumbs staying forward on this one. This should be a nice full range of motion on this one. Get those hands up. You should be able to get just a little bit above shoulder height with this one. Again, slow controlled motion. Bring that arm up as high as possible, as high as is comfortable, and then nice and slow back down. Watch those shoulders. Try not to shrug those shoulders. Try to keep them nice and low, pulled down on your back. Now go through and check the rest of that body. Make sure that back is staying really nice and flat. Every time you bring those arms up, you don't want to tip forward or arch back. You want to keep a neutral spine as best you can. Also, those knees need to be just slightly soft. You don't want to lock them out completely. You don't want to bend them really deep. Just have them make sure that they're a little bit soft. We're almost done. And let it relax. All right, let's go ahead and move back to that rear deltoid raise. This is your last progression on this one. You're going to be turning your thumbs out on this one. So you want to turn those hands so your palm is facing forward in front of you, thumbs pointing out towards the walls. Same exact motion again, drawing those hands back up behind you as high as you possibly can. This rotation is going to feel like you have a little bit less range of motion again. Now you can see here I'm actually starting to move through this range of motion just a little bit too quickly. I'm coming up too quickly, kind of doing a real quick snap, pulling that arm back behind me, and I'm letting that arm drop a little bit too fast. So just try to keep it controlled as best you can. I probably should have dropped my weight a little bit on this set just to make sure I can keep a slow pace with still getting a full range of motion. All right, let's go ahead and switch it up to our last round of those lateral raises. Again, those thumbs pointing out away from you. Now with this position, you actually should feel like you have the most range of motion out of every single one we've done with this lateral raise. If you want to, you can go ahead and bring those hands all the way up over top of your head. I'm stopping at about shoulder height just because that's the point that I want to focus on as far as my range of motion. However, it's always a good idea to try to push more range of motion if you can. If you can control it and it feels comfortable, it's always better to do more range of motion. So with this exercise, if it feels comfortable to you to bring those hands all the way up over top of your head, if you can control that weight that you're using, then by all means go ahead and push that full range of motion and get those hands over your head. Now we just have one more repetition. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and set those weights up. We're going to take a little bit of a break here, let you rest for a little while. It's perfectly fine to take up to a 2 to 4 minute break before we start into this next round. So go ahead and pause it here if you want to. When we come back, we're going to be starting in with a seated reverse fly and a ventral raise. All right, let's go ahead and get started with our next exercises. Starting off with that reverse fly first. We're doing the seated, bent over, making sure that back is about a 45-degree angle or further over if you can. Starting with those thumbs facing back behind you again. Now this is going to be a really, really awkward motion. You're going to feel like you don't have much range of motion at all. But keep those thumbs pointing back behind you as best you can, and that's going to really, really focus on that rear deltoid much, much more than any one of the other positions we're doing with this exercise. Yeah, just 2 more repetitions. Nice, slow, controlled contraction. Try to swing those arms if you can. I know those arms are probably really tired by this point, but try to keep them slow. All right, let's go ahead and move on to that ventral raise. So again, thumbs are staying back behind you. You're going to bring those arms straight up in front of your chest this time. Thumbs facing down behind you or towards the ground when you come up to that top of that range of motion. You're not going to be able to get that hand any higher than shoulder height. Or otherwise, you're going to start trying to lean back. And all that's going to do is take the effort off of your shoulders and start putting onto your lower back, so it just defeats the purpose of the motion. So only raise those arms as high as you can without leaning back behind you. Now, do keep in mind that because your arms are coming up in front of you, because that weight is up in front of you, you're going to have to counterbalance that weight by leaning back slightly. But you want that lean to come from your hips or all the way down from your ankles, so your whole body is shifting weight rather than just shifting it through your torso, through that rib cage, which is going to actually take away from those shoulders. All right, let's go ahead and move on to that next exercise. Going back to that reverse fly again. So adjusting that weight to where you need to be. All right, so lean over again, 45-degree angle on that torso or more if you can. Thumbs facing in towards each other. Those arms come up and out to the side. Remember, you want to try to really focus on that full range of motion as much as you can, but try to make sure that you're not swinging those arms. So those arms come up nice, slow, controlled motion and fall back down in nice, slow, controlled motion. If it starts getting too difficult for you, you can always drop down to a little bit easier weight. And just 2 more repetitions. Keep that back nice and flat. Try to swing those arms. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and stand back up. We got another round of those ventral raises. Thumbs pointing in towards each other again. Nice, slow, controlled motion. Bring those hands right up in front of that shoulder, higher if you can. Now with this range of motion, you should be able to get those hands all the way up over top of your head if you want to. Otherwise, just keep them right here, just coming up to that shoulder height. Nice, controlled motion. Remember again, you're going to be hinging from your hip or from your heel to counterbalance that weight as you bring those arms up, but make sure you don't let that lower back arch. You want to make sure that that shoulder all the way down to those hips is locked in place. A nice straight line through that back, keeping a neutral spine, only hinging from those hips if you're doing that counterbalance. All right, let's go ahead and switch back to that reverse fly. We're doing thumbs facing forward this time. This is our 3rd position for this exercise. We've got just 1 more on this exercise. So those thumbs are facing forward, you're bringing those arms straight up and out to the side. This is more of a traditional reverse fly. So if you've ever done a reverse fly before, this is most likely the position you are using. This uses a little bit more of the middle and rear deltoid than just the rear. So even though a lot of people think this is an exercise specifically for the rear deltoid, it actually doesn't focus on it that well. It's that rotation on that hand motion that we did the first few times that actually hits that rear deltoid a lot better. All right, we just got one more repetition. And then go ahead and let it relax. Go ahead and stand back up. We've got another round of those ventral raises. We've got our thumbs facing forward for this one. Again, you can get a full range of motion all the way up over top of that shoulder with this one if you want to. Otherwise, you can hold that range of motion just a little bit shorter like I'm doing here. Just like with all the rest of the exercises, make sure you're doing a nice controlled motion. Slowly bring that arm up, slowly back down, no quick snaps. You want to make sure that you're building that strength 100% through that entire range of motion. Just 2 more repetitions, keep it controlled, nice slow range of motion. Slowly back down, one left. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and set those weights back up. Adjust that weight if you need to for this next exercise. Going back to that reverse fly, doing thumbs out this time. This is our last progression on this one. This is our last position. All right, go ahead and take a seat. Remember, thumbs facing out. You want those thumbs facing in opposite direction from each other, fingers facing towards the wall in front of you. Nice and slow, bring those arms up, slowly back down. This position is going to focus mainly on the middle of that deltoid and a little bit of the front of that deltoid. You actually shouldn't have much muscle activation in the rear of that shoulder at all. You're going to feel it through those rhomboids, the top of that shoulder blade, but you shouldn't feel it much the rear of that deltoid. And just 2 more repetitions. One left, nice controlled motion. And let it relax. All right, go ahead and stand back up. We've got one more round of ventral raises left. Again, thumbs facing out for this one. Now this one's going to have a much more limited range of motion. With those thumbs facing out, you probably shouldn't be able to get that hand much higher than shoulder height. You want to pause it right there. Nice, slow, controlled motions, just like all the other exercises. Just slowly up, slowly back down. Again, you're going to need to lean back just a little bit through that hip or through that ankle to counterbalance that weight as those dumbbells come up in front of your chest. Just be really careful as those shoulders start getting tired. You're going to want to have a tendency to lean back and arch that lower back. Make sure you're keeping a perfectly neutral spine, nice flat back. Just one more repetition, slow controlled motion, and let it relax. All right, go ahead and set those dumbbells back up. You can take a short little break here if you want to. We're going to be doing a burnout, just regular shoulder press for this last exercise. It's a little bit different motion than we've been using for all the others, so those shoulders should feel a little bit better on this one. So bring those hands up to those shoulders, hands just outside shoulder width, and press them right up over top of your head. You're just going to keep going as long as you possibly can until those shoulders give out on you or until that form starts getting bad enough that you need to stop. Now also, you don't necessarily need to do this in a seated position. You can also do it from a standing position. Generally, a seated position is a little bit stronger. A physio ball obviously makes it a little bit harder for overall balance. So using a lot of weight is a lot more difficult on a physio ball than it is just sitting on a regular bench or chair. Just keep that motion going, nice and slow and control. Full press all the way over your head. Don't lock that elbow out completely over your shoulder. You want to keep just a little bit soft in that elbow and then slowly bring it back down. Stopping with that hand just a little bit, tiny bit above shoulder height before you press it right back up again. Just keep watching that lower back. Make sure it's staying nice and flat. Don't let yourself tilt that chest up towards the ceiling. Remember, this is a burnout. If you can't do as many as I can, that's perfectly fine. Just do as many as you possibly can with the weight that you have, making sure that form is nice and clean. And I'm almost going to give out. I got a couple more repetitions till I'm done. And that's it. Go ahead and let it relax. That was 30 full repetitions, and this workout is complete. You just finished Fitness Blender's Cannonball Shoulders workout.